Lunch Money Lambert, Jeff Malott. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Yeah. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation, where we talk about fishing and competition. It's your boy Ox Pippin, aka Ox Fishing. Don't come over here tripping. Hey, hope you enjoy the show. Jeff Malott, Lunch Money Lambert, Lego. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to KBN Live. Happy Monday. We got multiple special guests, but a special guest host, Road Dog Jordan Marshall. What's up, man?
What's up, Jeff? How you doing?
All right, man. I'm doing good. Sliding in here from Mr. Lambert, who is gearing up for a celebrity cornhole tournament, if I understand things correctly. You talked to him about that?
He's tossing bags with the rich and famous tonight. So I hear.
Is he the celebrity, or is he paired with celebrity?
I'd have to think he's paired with a celebrity. I don't know.
We're all famous in kayak fishing in our own minds, but we're not famous at all. Is the deal, right?
Yeah, he was hanging out with some cool people. They got more star power than he does. No offense, big brother.
Yeah, but my man can throw the bags, so my money's on him to go ahead and win that thing. So we'll see. I think
absolutely
the gathering and practice is tonight, and then the real deal is tomorrow. So we'll see. But yeah, we're here to talk about fishing, man. Cayuga Lake did its thing. Cayuga, however you say it up there. It did its
Cayuga.
thing. Yeah, Cayuga. Jordan Westerman came from the Midwest. 2 dominating days, man. Big, almost 100-inch limits, took the win, and then Jake. I don't want to pronounce his last name. Jake came in second. Then we've got the 3rd place finisher with us tonight, Ryan Matalevich. Did I say it right, Ryan? Please shake your head. Yeah, I got him. He's in the waiting room. We'll bring him in a minute. Ryan, and he's got a cool story to tell us. Blake Abbey was begging us to have him on to tell us about this dock fishing story. And then I was trading some messages with Ryan earlier. There's some more to that story where people just can't read between the lines and mind their own business. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit. Too, man. But yeah, those guys caught him up. I've never been up there. Have you been to Cayuga before, Jordan?
I went to Cayuga last year, and I greatly enjoyed myself. It was tough for me not to go back, but I was kind of looking at time off and kind of selected Worlds here in a couple weeks versus a trip to Cayuga. So that's what it is. That was a tough one to miss, but it was the longest event of the year for me. It's like 12 or 13 hours from my house, and I knew everybody would catch them, and I just didn't like the odds of that. So, picking and choosing a little bit this year.
Hey, they sure enough did catch them.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Before we went live, I was scrolling the leaderboard on day one, and I don't know if I've ever seen a tournament where 35 people had 90 inches. You ever seen that before?
I've not. That's the craziest thing. The closest thing I could think of maybe was like, I don't know, when we went to Caddo for that Bassmaster and everybody caught them on day one, I feel like I had low 80s and I was in like 50th or something like that. So I don't know how many people had 90 then, but that's one number quality events that I've had. I have seen, not had. I was not there, but that's the highest quality number event I think I've ever seen. Tourney X.
Yeah. And then just to have 80 went down to 72. And I know Gunnersville was kind of like that. There was like 50 people with 80 inches or something. But yeah, they caught them. Mixture of, some people were catching big largemouth, but a lot of smallmouth, which how much more fun can you have, right?
Yeah. That's a special place. I encourage everybody to go up there, even if it's just for a fun trip. That's a special place if you time it right, for sure.
Yeah, I talked to one evening. I think it was at day one when Possum Kingdom got canceled. We were hanging out. I was talking to Guillermo, who lives in Texas, and how can you find a better place with better lakes in Texas? And he said that Cayuga might be his favorite lake of all, and he lives right there in all the hammer factories of Texas, so it must be something special.
That's impressive. I know Cayuga's up there. I don't know if it's in my top, but I'm a big Caddo guy, big Gunnersville guy, Seminole guy. Just greenfish. Susquehanna's up there for brownfish, but Cayuga's in the mix. I don't know if it's in my top 3, but it's up there. Easily top 10, maybe around 5.
Yeah, people think New York and they think, dirty, corrupt New York City, but they don't think about how beautiful the rest of New York New York is, man.
Yeah.
And there's some beautiful country up there and some beautiful lakes and obviously some great fishing.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there for sure.
Yeah.
The Finger Lake region is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. A few things to get to before we get these guys in. Looks like we've got Jordan and Ryan in, so we're good. I was worried. I think Jordan, I don't know if he stayed in New York or not, but he may be in a place with bad signal, but he's in. And then Ryan looks like he's in the HQ there, so he's good to go. We'll get them in a minute. Before that, let everybody know we're doing a Seaguar giveaway tonight. You guys know how we do the giveaways. If you're on Facebook, like and share, YouTube, Twitch, X/Twitter, just comment, repost, whatever you can do there, just so we can get you involved in that giveaway. And at the end of the show, we'll pick somebody for the winner of the Seaguar pack. So like and share and all those things, comment, and we'll get that done later. If you are listening on the audio podcast, I would just like to thank y'all. I'm going to read one of our most recent comments over on from Apple Podcast, actually. We appreciate you guys over there that catch the audio podcast. That's where the most of our downloads and listens come from, to be honest with you, is over on the audio side after we go live, even though we mix it up with our live viewers, and we appreciate y'all. But this from Matt Collins Fishing, he just left this review, 5-star review, the kayak fishing show, Jordan. There are very few good kayak fishing podcasts. KBN is the standard. If you want to elevate your game and learn more about kayak fishing on the national tournament level, tune in. Great show, gents. What a comment, man. Thank you, Matthew Collins Fishing. What do you think about that, man?
I couldn't half hear you, Jeff. It's cutting in and out. I've been trying to play with it. I can't tell if it's me or if it's my internet or what.
Okay.
But it's
everybody in the comments, let me know. Can you hear me? Can you hear Jordan? Are we good? Ryan, give me a thumbs up.
I'm trying to elevate my podcast game to be up there. Try to make it 2 good fishing podcasts.
Yeah,
I need to record some more episodes though.
That's what I'm saying. When's the next Road Dogging coming out?
I been trying to hook one up soon. It's not on the back burner at the moment. Just trying to get one squared away. We'll see. I got a really cool I'm trying to work on. So the next one will be cool. Got to set up a time.
You've had some bangers lately, man. I love the one with Cody. The one with the homeless fisherman was great. You've had some really good ones lately.
Yeah. So this year has been really good with the quality of the ones I have put out. I'm all for quality over quantity by all means.
Yeah, and I've heard over on YouTube, especially some of the comments over there from our YouTube viewers. They're like, "Man, this is my favorite fishing podcast. We need more of this." They love the Road Dog podcast, so they need you.
I'm trying to focus on getting road dogs like the homeless fisherman, not necessarily keeping it, kayak fishing centric, but trying to keep, fishing obviously the primary, and then we can see where we go there. I've got a cool one if I can get them on. So.
Okay, that's awesome, man. Well, let's shout out the sponsors of the show. It says Jordan, so it must be your connection, man. They said I sound good. You sound a little digital sometimes. That's Jim.
Yeah, I get about every other word from you when you speak. I might have to reset something here.
All right. Well, shout out to the sponsors, man. Eco Fishing Shop. They're the presenting sponsor of the show. We appreciate them. Go to ecofishingshop.com. Get whatever you need sent to the door. That white glove treatment on the kayaks. No forklifts. Never, ever touch it. Come straight to the door there. Big Bass 250 this fall. Don't forget about that. Are you going to make that trip, Jordan? Ryan and Steve, they're talking about making that trip.
I'll have to check the weekends, but it's definitely something on my radar. I've wanted to come to the Midwest. I've done a kind of a poor job in my road dog adventure the last few years to go to the Midwest. I've heard nothing but great things about that area. What is that? Is that Table Rock?
Lake of the Ozarks.
Lake of the Ozarks. Yeah, that's definitely on the radar. So we'll see. I don't remember. You know what that is off the top of your head?
It's a week or two after Caddo, I think.
It's definitely a possibility.
26th. October 26th. That's the date.
October 26th. So Halloween tournament. Do I get bonus inches for dressing up like somebody and fishing in the costume?
Man. Sure you do. Hey, and here's the deal with that tournament, man. And you like throwing big baits a little bit, right?
I do. That's becoming my favorite thing to do, win or lose. It's somehow more fun to me to do that than catch them on other things now.
So for that tournament, one fish, the biggest fish, is guaranteed $10,000. So that's how do you miss that one?
I'll be there.
Yeah, one fish, 10K. You can have the worst day of your life and just get one to eat that glide, and there you go. Now your day's the best day of your life. So yeah, everybody check out Big Bass
definitely on the radar.
Yeah, and ecofishingshop.com, they have the link on there to register, and you can pay part of it now and part of it later. They, if you don't want to sink the whole 250 in, you can kind of do it throughout the year. So make plans to be there this fall. Western Son Vodka, we're actually going to try to do something with them at the 250 because they do a great weigh-in, big dinner, feed everybody, and we want to have a little after party with the Western Son folks. Have some Western Son on deck. They have an open bar there already, so maybe we can get that thing filled up. And then Pro Guide Lithium, they're based out of Missouri too. It's a Midwest theme. Pro Guide Lithium. Make sure you check out Pro Guide if you need batteries to power all your stuff. Tonight's giveaway is Seaguar. Revo and Z-Man are also our giveaway partners. We appreciate them. And then Gill Fishing. It's rainy season in these parts, so make sure you get your Gill fishing gear to get covered up. Levi Schneider got Big Bass 13th last year in the 250, throwing a Chad shad. There you go. That's all you got to do, man. That's all you got to do, Levi. With that said, man, let's get these two big winners in here. Get my screen turned around. Ryan, Jordan, gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Both, my God, I couldn't see that on the smaller screen. look at Ryan's room. You got to build a new wing on the house, brother.
Yeah, no, it's not at the house. The wife wouldn't allow that. This is at the shop. So
okay, yeah. I mean, that right there makes Drew Gregory's look like crap. You got more stuff on the wall than he does. That's amazing. Jordan, what's up? You still in New York, man?
Yeah. I'm staying on Seneca for a couple days this week, and I'll be here through the week.
Okay, it looked like some after tourney shenanigans going on the water. If I saw social media, right? Did you go fishing again today or no? Or was that just the
yeah? I think. I caught my PB. Riser caught his PB. We probably caught. Man, I don't know. I mean, we caught so many fish, but I caught a 6-pounder, like a 6.5, and Riser caught a 7.3. So the 7.3 was.
Oh my gosh!
I'm still speechless about it. Like it was.
Was that a 7.3 brown fish?
Yeah.
Ooh.
A true freak of nature. Like that's like a once in a lifetime for me to even see it type of fish.
My word. Is there any evidence of that on social media yet? I'll go find a picture of it.
Probably not yet.
Okay.
We literally just got back to the house. So.
Okay. Come on, Riser. Get that thing updated. Well, both of you, congrats to both of you. Number one, for your great finishes at the event. For those that aren't familiar, we hear these great stories. What makes that place so special? I mean, Ryan, you live in the Northeast. Jordan, you've been out there. You've been out there before, right? This isn't your first trip.
First trip.
Oh, well, you know it well enough then. After your first trip.
Don't go back. You're spoiled now.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us, whoever wants to go first, man. What makes that place so special?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, it's my third time fishing up there, I think.
Yeah.
But it depends on time of year, right? So it's so different. This time obviously was a lot more related to the spawn. But earlier in the year, if this tournament would have been 3 weeks earlier, 2 weeks earlier, even, like, it would have been all largemouth for the most part. The smallmouth pre-spawn bite isn't like typical pre-spawn bite. They're a little hard to find and catch up there and compared to some other lakes. But the largemouth are just, honestly, the roles are kind of reversed. Smallmouth are much harder to find on that lake than the largemouth are. And the largemouth up north are just all freaks. And the crazy thing about that, like, there's 6-pound largemouth up there, there are 6-pound smallmouth up there, 7-pound smallmouth up there. I think they just got a 10 there, or what was it, 9 something smallmouth in Cayuga they caught, something ridiculous last year. And it's just that place sets up so good for anybody, right? So you can catch largemouth, you can catch smallmouth, you do whatever you want to do there, and you can win with either, you know. I think the one thing we had an advantage of with going after smallmouth is 90% of the anglers were going after largemouth, and it still put up crazy good numbers and a lot of good fish up the north end of the lake. But I mean, on a 2-day tournament with that volume of people just beating up on like the grass patches and stuff, it just gets crowded, I guess would be the best thing. Where the smallmouth were just where we were kind of fishing was just a lot better. But I think the big attraction up there, I mean, one, it's crystal clear water, right? North end of the lake and all the way down to the south. It's, I mean, crazy visibility, really good scenery up there. They have like, it's just pretty farmland all around the lake. There's just a lot of cool stuff to be up there, and it's insane when you drive through just looking at maps and stuff on like everywhere you look on your mapping, like when you're driving up there, there's just lakes everywhere, and every single one of them just stocked full of fish. And something you guys in like the south know, obviously get great big fish and stuff, but the north fish don't get pressure all year long, right? And it's just you're catching quantity and quality, so it's like you're not just fishing for those big fish, you're catching just tons and tons of good fish. I mean, most people you talk to fishing up there threw back multiple 4-pounders, 3-pounders, 4-pounders that didn't even help their bags. You know, it's just like you need 25 pounds just to be in the top 10. So it's just that kind of place. And it's up there for me. It's one of my favorites. Not as big, I think, as like a St. Lawrence. Like I like St. Lawrence, Thousand Islands, that region a little bit better. Lake George, Champlain, those lakes are some of my real favorites. I like kind of like Cayuga's more of like a goby setup, smallmouth kind of fishery, and I like the bait chaser fisheries a little bit more. I mean, Thousand Islands with the exception there, but like the Champlains and stuff like that, they're a little more fun, you know. But
yeah, Jordan, first time, you cut the big check and win it. What did you think of it coming from the Midwest / North over to Cayuga?
You know, it fishes very similar to my home lake of Okoboji, like just a bigger version of it, you know, a little deeper, a little bigger. Like Ryan said, the gobies were, I didn't notice the gobies until day 2. And I caught one on a drop shot, and it was like, oh, that made me understand why those fish are so big on the bed, you know, because usually you get a smallmouth that sits on a bed for a week, 2 weeks, and they're on, you know, they're paper thin, they're railed out, they're beat up. These fish are nonstop all day long eating gobies. Like I sat up and watched the fish today, like literally eat probably 100 gobies, you know, in 10 minutes. It just nonstop was eating and eating and eating. And a lot of the times they'll spit them out or they'll kill them and spit them out. But these ones, you could see them eat, chew, swallow, like move to the net, and then just like, you know, so my stuff back home is more perch, you know, bluegill, but these fish are built different. You know, those goby fish hold a couple extra pounds in a couple different places. You know, I caught a 20-incher today. That was 6.5. I've caught multiple fish, you know, hundreds of 20-inch fish that have never gone over 6. So yeah, this place is great. The communities were all awesome. The food is amazing. The ice cream and custard is can't be missed. And, yeah, everything about this area I was really impressed with.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So let's get into your days. I mean, obviously this isn't your home lake for either one of you. Leading into practice, and then day 1, what did you figure out in practice, and how did day 1 go for you? Jordan, you're the champ. You can start us on that.
So my practice was rough. I don't want to say rough, but the weather, you know, I wanted the smallmouth fish. I didn't want anything to do with largemouth. Sight fishing for smallmouth is something that is definitely my strength. I spend, you know, a lot of time not necessarily fishing for the fish on beds, but I will look at smallmouth on beds a lot just to see, you know, where they're at, what they're doing. Some of the fisheries I fish up in Wisconsin, they'll bed from May until mid to late September. They kind of, so I'm able to see those fish on beds a lot and see how they interact with just being around them or doing stuff like that. So I really wanted to focus on, you know, on my strength and sight fish. The first day I think I covered like 15 to 18 miles. I saw one bed. The second day I did the same, saw one bed. And then I went to look for the largemouth thing. And it took me about an hour to just realize that's not how I was going to be able to do good. I caught some good fish, but it wasn't something that I don't like to rip a chatterbait through grass all day long. Like, it's fun, but it's not my strength. So yeah, I went out on Friday. It slipped off a little more Friday. It was really windy Wednesday and Thursday. Friday I kind of calmed down, so I ended up going back to one of the places where I saw a bed, and then just continue to find quality fish. I knew there was going to be some people to deal with, but on a bed fishing tournament for smallmouth, you just got to slow down and just.
So did you actually see the beds that you were fishing? Did you find a flat with some beds on it, or did you just kind of fish an area that you kind of expected there to be beds around one of the beds that you saw?
I went to an area where I expected them to be around where I saw. They were not on flats. They were really, really spread out. I mean, if you were bed fishing for smallmouth, you were spending more time covering water than you were actually fishing for them. I don't know how it was for Ryan, but I know all the guys on my side of the lake, we covered a lot of water. I ran through a 100 amp hour battery on my motor guide both days before noon. I know on day one, I put in close to 20 miles. It was you had to cover a lot of water. At most you'd find like 3 or 4, maybe 5 fish in a little area, but it was really, really like, a couple here, a couple half mile down. This point had like 2 or 3. So you really, I think on going into the tournament, I had 30 waypoints, and that to me was a lot for here. Usually I like to have more, but I knew that they were all good size. It seemed like if you hooked a fish, they were over 18 to 19. They were all quality. So I caught 2 fish on Friday just to kind of check my sizing of everything, and then I had everything pretty much marked. I knew, the first 5 fish that I was going to catch that day, kind of where they were, what my limit would be ish. I thought a 95-inch limit on day one wouldn't be hard to come by for me, but it all depended on the amount of people that showed up to where we were fishing. And there was a lot of people bed fishing. It just all depended on, being patient with those fish. And these were definitely not your kind of run of the mill flip a bait at a smallmouth on bed and it eats. Like, they were pressured. They didn't really care about your baits because there's gobies all around them. Your bait's not eating their stuff, the gobies are. So they're pushing those gobies away. So you really, for me at least, I had to fish them more like largemouth. And I realized that on day one or in practice. It was a rough practice, but I knew going into the tournament, I at least had some fish to get me through day one.
Ryan, what about you, man? Similar story to Jordan, or did you have something else going on?
No, he hit it pretty spot on with as far as the fish being real spread out. That was one key. Second key is a lot of bed fishing people at the north know usually you can throw anything into a bed and the fish will just bite it and you can catch them. Some of these fish, I mean, I sat on for an hour to get them to bite. So it was more like largemouth bed fishing. And that's really kind of the gist of it. I mean, I had a 280 amp hour Dakota lithium battery in my kayak that I was running down. I never ran it dead, but I had a 135 that would have died. So I'm estimating I was probably using in the range of like 170 to 200 amp hours a day, running around the lake, going to beds. When I got up for practice on Wednesday, it was complicated for me. So I'm like still like burnt out from the week. So my dad travels with me. He was fishing for largemouth. We were staying on the north end of the lake. Obviously I was fishing for smallmouth. I was on the south end of the lake. So I was waking up like 2 o'clock in the morning every morning to drop him off at the north end and drive an hour south to then launch myself. So it was a little bit difficult. I got down to the south end after the first day. And I went to launch at my ramp and I went out and, I had an issue with my motor. My motor wouldn't work. and I had previously, I probably should have looked at it. I didn't. Thankfully, one of the other Old Town guys was there, Ryan Nye, and they had a parts kit with him, and he had a spare motor, so I was able to like get that rigged up and get it set back in the kayak and get out there. So that was super helpful. But I mean, really, that's how it kind of set up on like my first day. Was quite entertaining. I mean, I have quite a few stories on that, but we can jump into that later. But that's really kind of how it set up for me. It was just the same way for Jordan, just kind of finding fish all around. What I will say is we got up there right at the beginning, right? So there was like fish pulling up, and then they were far and few between. But by Sunday, there was, I don't know, Jordan, what do you think? I'd probably say like at least 500% more fish up there, like for every, like there was 5 times the fish up there easily compared to what was out there on day 1 of the tournament.
Yeah. It seemed like in practice there was a lot of empty beds, and I marked out, and on tournament day, especially day 2, like you said, they all pulled up. Like, dude, maybe not all, but most of those empty beds had fish on them. And there was another wave coming to us.
But listen, this is the craziest thing, right? I noticed that too, and I've never seen this with smallmouth before. It's new to me, and like I'm a big smallmouth guy too, right? But as he mentioned, seeing these beds, like it made no sense to me. On Wednesday, I caught a fish on a bed and went back to on the tournament. On Saturday, it was not there. I sat like hiding, trying to see it. The fish did not come back. And then on Sunday, I caught the fish. So I don't know if they just went on vacation, like offshore off the bed, like they just chilled out for a minute and then they came back. But I've never seen that before. Like then I noticed even on day 1 of the tournament, a lot of the beds I had marked were emptied and the fish weren't there. And then I circled back through around 11, 12 o'clock, and then all the fish pulled up onto the bed again. So I don't know if they were just like kind of hanging out. Like and my theory of it, the concept, and when I talking to some other people, I think that the fish are so fresh and they just fanned out the beds, but there was no eggs on them yet. So they weren't really committed to the beds. They were just moving up and getting them started and getting them ready. And then they were pulling back out, and they didn't have anything to really guard. So they weren't hyper aggressive on them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Now, for reference, we're talking clear water. How deep were they bedding?
Mine were pretty shallow. I didn't really catch any deep ones.
Okay. Yeah, I know up here in these rocky lakes, sometimes they can bed a little bit deeper.
Oh no, they definitely do there too. But it's just, I think what happened is it was the very first wave of the spawn, and they were just moving up. So like the first wave was going up shallow, and I think later on, like right now, you can go up there and probably catch them like flogging and looking out deep and doing that kind of thing, But when I was up there, it just wasn't really happening. I looked a lot. I had a couple of decent days of weather, but I didn't really see too. I seen a couple deeper beds, but not many.
Anyone doing that in the kayak? Anybody flogging?
Yeah,
I had one with me.
Yeah, I had one with me too. I've never seen so many people with floggers in the kayak tournament, but
it's easy. Actually,
you got to realize that you are putting yourself in the risk of flipping your kayak more than anything else when you put a flogger in your boat. Like it is, you have to trust yourself and your ability in your boat, or you will flip your boat. Like that I didn't. Like Ryan, I didn't find any fish that I caught on a flogger. At the Okoboji tournament a couple weeks ago, I was catching fish in white caps, like 3-foot rollers with my flogger, no problem. But it's sketchy.
Were you like kind of keeping it like away from your face, like and just kind of putting it in the water and like looking down through it, like like maybe a 2-foot gap? That's good. Like I wasn't like leaning over and getting right down in it. I was kind of just holding it out when I was looking.
yeah, I do the same. Just kind of, I can sit in my seat and push it down and look, but it I've had a few fish where I've like got on my knees and leaned over, but in my Hobie, all that water will start.
I mean that's anything, I think, and you risk, like you said, with the white caps, getting hit sideways by a rogue wave while you're looking in the flogger, and then you're like heels overhead,
Yeah, that's trouble, man. I wondered, people, you get your center of gravity off without that. If you're just not even paying attention, get your center of gravity off, you can get thrown out of your boat, so much less holding a piece of equipment and staring through it. But yeah, you gotta be careful out there. That's crazy. I wish I could see some pictures of you guys using those in the kayak. I feel like people could fall out of a bass boat with those, much less using used them in a kayak.
Well, they give you so much resistance too. You don't think about that, but as you push down on it, it has and it's like tilty and moving and like it. I recommend people getting them, but you better be good in your boat and you better be in one of a few boats that are stable enough to be able to use them.
Yeah. Chris said, did live scope perspective mode didn't work. Did either one of you have scope on and use perspective mode to try to do the same thing?
Didn't need it. I mean, I use my eye scope. My eyes found those fish more than anything else.
Yeah, I caught them. I caught them all with the Costas.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I had the Hobie Sightmaster lenses for me were the deal. It's like Ryan said. I think it was early enough in the spawn that 10 feet out deep, you're still a lot colder water. It's probably a 5 to 10 degree water change from the bank to out to 10 foot. So there's no reason for those fish to be in there. They're still trying to get themselves in that little warmer, sunny water, and yeah, that's why I felt like they were so related to shallow water.
Yeah. So day one, both of you had really good days. Both of you over 90 inches. I already mentioned earlier, 35 people have 90 inches. So it's a tight leaderboard, obviously stacked. Jordan, you're sitting in second place. Ryan, you're down around 20th place, but that's kind of misleading. I mean, you're right there with 90 inches. Looking at the top of the leaderboard, Ewing Minor, Christopher Nielsen, both limits of largemouth. Seeing people with largemouth, did you guys think that would hold for 2 days? And do you think you could run them down since you were both on smallmouth?
I personally thought they were going to have a better day on day 2 than we were, because day 2 we had a little more wind and we had true overcast almost the whole day. It ended up slicking off about noon, and that really helped a lot of the smallmouth guys, I think. But I know for me, I was, especially with Ewing up top, like Ewing's doing stuff that not a lot of people are doing, and he's very confident in what he's doing. He doesn't usually set himself up for failure. So I knew that we were going to have to put it together, but I also know how smallmouth work. It's like you can get right on smallmouth real quick. Sometimes it takes a lot longer to do that with largemouth. It's like sometimes you need 5 to 20 minutes and you can sack up 100 inches real quick with smallmouth. And, same thing with largemouth, but the smallies, especially around the spawn for me, are a little bit more dependable. Every other time of the year, like they'll move, they'll burn you, but smallies for the most part will stay on their beds for a good amount of time. Like Ryan said, this trip, they were pulling on and off and on and off. And I think what it was a lot was, like you said, they're fanning stuff out. They don't have anything on those beds. They pulled off really quick when you'd come up. Sometimes they wouldn't come back. Sometimes they come back right away. It's like sometimes that first day when those fish pull up, they're really hard. They're harder to catch. Where largemouth, it seems like once they fan that bed off, you throw something up there, they'll eat it right away. Once they do their spawn, then it takes a little bit longer. You have to, finesse them out or play them a little bit.
Yeah. We got some comments coming in. I'll save some of the questions for later. Ryan, Blake Abbey is wanting your story now. He said he wants it now. So what happened on day one that
so am I gonna go like through like the whole shebang of like my day 1, day 2, and all the stories, or like should I just go to the specific story?
I mean, I want to hear about your day 1, but we can do it
well,
however you want to do it.
So I'll try to make it quick. I mean, there's a lot that happened. So I mean, it was honestly nothing short of a complete shit show for me up there. Okay, so obviously I said I got there, broke the motor. Ryan set me up with the motor, right? Before that, Blake wanted to fly in from Florida, asked if I had a kayak to use. I said, yeah. He's like, okay, well, like there's someone else on the Old Town team. They said they got like one. I'm like, no, dude. He's like, but it's 12 foot. Yours is 10. I kind of want a smaller one for the rental truck. I'm like, that's fine, dude, whatever. So I brought it up. I said, it's all good. It's all fine. I get up there, and then he shows up. He's all pumped up to get out on the lake, and he's like, dude, what's up? The rudder's broken. So the cable's on the rudder. The steer. I'm like, oh shit, my bad, dude. I didn't know. And we tried fixing it, but there was an internal thing. So I got him all set up with some left, right pickup on the rudder strings. So then he went out to he still killed it though. He went out and like he cashed a check and he did good and he had fun. So I mean, using Walmart rods and just like kind of like bartering for baits with random people, and it worked out for him. So I mean, it's pretty sick. But then the shit show started with the motor brakes during practice. Then also during practice, I'm driving back and I get to the lake the second day and I said, oh shit, I don't have a seat. And this happened to me at Murray too. If you remember, I lost my seat. I lost my seat again at this tournament. Seat blew out of my kayak. Don't know how. Must not have strapped it down. So I got no seat in my kayak. I'm like, well, at least it's a bed fishing tournament for me, so it's not that bad. But with the long runs, it still sucks. So practiced the whole day without a seat. Pulled off the water a little early on Friday. Went to Dick's. Got the same chair I got at Murray. It's like $50. Put it in the kayak. Poked some holes through it. Like strapped it down. Got out on the water, and then day one, I went out and started running to waypoints. It was the better of the 2 days. It looked slick, calm. Everything looked great, but the fish, for whatever reason, were super finicky for me on that day. Like everything took way longer to catch. A lot of the fish weren't there. All the fish I marked during practice, they didn't seem to they abandoned their bed and they weren't coming back. So like I really struggled to catch the fish, and I managed to do it though. The first fish I found in the morning, I thought it was going to be a rock. It was a 21.75. It actually turned out to be a 22 that I had a photo of, but I didn't. I submitted the wrong photo. I actually got 22 out of it in the one photo, but I thought it was like, for whatever reason, I thought I missed it. So I submitted it as a 21.75, but it was actually a 22. I had a photo I think I sent you. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, where's that thing at? Is this, I'll find it.
Not that one.
Neither one of these. Is it this one right here, though? Hang on a second. This one that I'm on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's a monster, dude.
So that was the first fish. But then I'm like, and that wasn't one I had marked at all. I didn't even know that fish was there because I went to a fish that I had marked, wasn't there. Then on the way to the next one, I found that one. And I caught that one. It was an absolute tank. So I carry 2 boards in my autopilot because like I like to be able to run them straight flat across the floor. So I had to take the yellow one I carry, like the catch one, I have it cut down to 21 inches because it fits flat on the floor. I don't have to worry about losing a fish. Like, see, it's like kind of cut so it fits.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's smart.
So that's what I have, right? But if you notice something, that's the second fish I caught, and I don't have an identifier in the photo.
Oh.
Because if you go back to the green one, I had on the big fish. I caught that fish with the identifier in the photo, and I use the bigger board, which I don't like putting them up on the rails like that because they have a tendency to sometimes flop off. So I caught that fish. Then I ran and caught that 18.75. Then on the yellow board, I never swapped the identifier over. So later on, I ended up catching a limit of fish on day 2. That fish got disqualified from my day 1 limit. So I would have been at 96, and it dropped me all the way down to 92.75. So I lost 3 1/4 inches on my day 1 total.
So let's see here. 3 1/4. I'm doing the math real quick. Would you have caught?
I would have won by 1/4 inch. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
So that was a $4,000 mistake for not moving my identifier over.
Yeah, Jordan's like, well, you just keep on bringing him 2 boards. It's all right.
Not taking anything away from Jordan, man. But I'm just like, damn, you're an idiot, bro. Like, man, how do I make that mistake? You know, but that was like whatever. So I was discouraged right after, and then here's my day 1's not over, right? So I find out that this fish was caught. I submitted it after that. I said, thank God I figured it out at that point because I was able to get my identifier figured back out afterwards. Obviously, the fish let go. I already said I have bigger fish mark. I'm not going to worry about it. Probably could have caught it again, but I said whatever. Went, did my thing. Started struggling. I only had like 3 fish, and there's like 2 hours left. And I was like scrambling. Ran across the lake. I randomly caught a 15.5. Never caught one fish 15.5. I caught it on bed. So that ended up being the one that replaced that one that you had the photo of. Thankfully, I had that fish. But I ran across all the lake. I started scattering. I'm like, man, I got no time. And it's like, I'm running back and forth across Cayuga, man. It's like a 40-minute commitment just to get across the dang lake. And I ran across the other side, caught a fish. That was the dink that ended up taking the place of that one that was there. But I ended up running across the lake, caught another fish. So then I was like, I had 4 fish. So I only needed one. Or no, that was my 5th fish. I caught my 5th fish on the beach, and I had like 30 minutes left. But I had that 15 in my bag because I knew that one was not going to count. And I start running across the shoreline, and there's like public beaches and stuff, and there's like fishing piers. Well, there's nobody out there that I see. Well, this dude's got his fishing poles laying on the dock, like not like actively at them. Like he's like way off the pier by the beach, like quite, it was like 60, 70 yards away. So I go there, I hear someone screaming, and then I'm like, oh crap. And he's like, my rod. So then I stop. I got like 20 minutes left. No one I have this fish there. I'm trying to get to this 19. And it's like, I probably had 30 minutes left. So I'm like, oh man, all right. So I'm like, sorry, man, I didn't know. I didn't see you there, whatever. He exchanged some words, and then I cut the line off. And then he's like, I got another one right here. He's pointing at like the bobber. So I'm like, that's your bobber right there, right? He's like, yeah. So went out around the bobber. His bait must have been drifting out the other way. I caught that one.
in the autopilot motor.
So I'm wrapped up with all of his lines. So I'm like,
hell.
I caught him. He's like, I'm like, I'm sorry. I got 30 minutes. I got to roll. And then I'm rolling. Now I got my whole motor just bogged down with fishing line. I'm doing like 3 miles an hour. I got 30 minutes left. No time to like try and do anything. I'm like, whatever. I know there's a 19.5 over here. I'm going to catch this fish, and it's going to call out that 15 because I made that mistake. Dude, I get over there. I'm fishing for it at one point. There's like, I think it was like 9 minutes left, 8 minutes left. And I'm getting it. And dude, it bites. I set the hook on it. It snapped my damn line. Because earlier in the day, it was wrapped up in a piece of metal in my kayak. I pulled it out and like, oh, it's going to be okay. Which normally I'm like super like crazy about retying and doing that stuff. I didn't retie, set the hook on it and broke it off. And I caught the fish. So I knew it was a 19.5 and it wouldn't bite again. On the other baits I had, I know enough time to retie something else in. And that's how my tournament day ended on day one.
Whoo, wow. Yeah.
So a little discouraged going into day two. And I thought that day was better. So I got back to camp, right? I was staying with Sisto and a bunch of other guys up there. Ewing was staying with us. And
you weren't in that hot tub photo?
No, I was sleeping, man. The 2 o'clock thing. I wanted to be though, right? We had a good time.
I had FOMO. I love staying with Sisto.
But
we lost the other Jordan. What's up with this? The Jordans are popping in and out.
I don't know. But so anyway, Ewing's pumped.
I'm
right?
just glad I can hear what's going on now.
Yeah.
Ewing's pumped. He did real good. Everybody at the house is kind of saying like, yeah, no, I mean, they're all pumped up. Everybody's catching largemouth real good. Day one, all fresh fish. Everyone's out there hammering them. And they're like kind of the talk of the town is, I think that day two is going to be a little rough for the smallmouth guys because the weather was supposed to be blowing 7 and like a little bit rougher and cloudy. You thought the largemouth bite would have got even better, but the largemouth bite didn't get better. And the smallmouth bite, it turned out that even though it looked miserable, and that was the kind of theme of practice too, the days that looked bad ended up actually being the better days. And the days that you thought were going to be like, oh, killer, like it was just not as good for some reason for me. Like the slick calm days, they were harder to catch. And like if you got slick calm and high sun, man, you couldn't, and you had to be 50 yards of sight test catch that. You know, like ask Blake about it, that one, you know, he's like, you got to be 50 yards back, half the football field casting at these fish on beds, or else you get close to them and they're gone, you know? So, but anyway, day two comes along. I go back down to the lake thinking it's going to be blowing. I was honestly contemplating just going for largemouth. I'm like, man, I don't know. None of my fish were on the waypoints I wanted. Like I only caught 6 fish all day and one of them was DQ'd. And then that's what I had, you know? And so I said, whatever, I'm just going to swing for the fences. I know I got good fish marked down here. Let's go for it. Day two, I run down, go to that 19.75 or 19.5 that I broke off as that last fish. That's where I started. She bit within like 5-10 minutes. And when I caught her, I actually pulled my bait that I broke off from day one. It was still in her mouth. So I got the bait out. And I'm like, man, it just like is another kind of like thorn in my side. And then I caught that fish. There was another one I had marked at the bank that was like 19, but it was being real skittish. So I'm like, whatever. I didn't know if I should run new water, do this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I need a huge day. So I'm like, I'm just going to check these waypoints. Even though I spent all that time on them yesterday, literally half my tournament, and the fish never showed up, I'm just going to run. And I ran to my first fish that I had marked that was a 20, and it was there. So, or actually, I'm sorry, I caught it was 19.75, and that fish was there. I hooked it. And then caught that one, went up to the next 20 right at the bank. That fish was there. Hooked that one, caught it. Both of those fish, it wasn't like just hooked and caught it. It took me about probably 50 minutes, 40 to 50 minutes on each one of those fish to get it to bite. I had to play this whole game where it would run away. Like it wasn't on the bed and then it would kind of sneak in. I'd see it. Then I knew it was there and then it was on. And then it was just a matter of like finessing the fish around until I got it to get on its bed. So got the first 20. So now I got like a 4-mile run to get to this other fish. That's only one fish that I had marked that I don't even know if it's going to be there or not. So I run 4 miles and this 20 to see if it's there. It's being real skittish in and out of the dock. And I I see this guy. It's like, keep in mind, it's like probably 8 o'clock-ish in the morning now. Probably 7:30-ish, before 8. And I see this guy walking up. He's just like, hey, how's it going? He waved. And that's right in front of the shanty I sent you the picture of, right? And he walks up from this. They have like these little shanties in the cliffs.
This thing.
Yeah, it was right in front of there. There's people in there, like below it.
Okay, I thought that was where you stayed. I was like, you, Sisto, and all them were in that house. That's crazy.
No. So that house had on the corner of their dock post had a 20-inch smallmouth on it. So I'm fishing for this fish. The dude just walks up the steps. He just waves nice, right? I'm waving, whatever. And then I'm fishing for this fish for 20 minutes, and then nothing. And then the wind is blowing at this, right? So the wind's like blowing my kayak. I'm just like crashing into the shoreline. And I'm just sitting there fishing for this fish. And I'm like probably 30 minutes in, and I'm thinking like, this fish isn't going to bite, And like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And starting to get like negative. I'm like, I got a good thing going here. But then all of a sudden I hear like over my shoulder, I say, excuse me. And I'm like, scared the hell out of me, right? I'm up against the bank. I said, yeah, can I help you? And she's like, yeah, could you just get out of here? And I'm like, I'm sorry. She's like, you're ruining my view. This is my space. I'm like, I'm sorry, ma'am. I said, I'm just trying to catch this fish right in the corner. I said, I'll promise I'll leave as soon as I catch it. She's like, no, I want you to leave now. I'm like, well, ma'am, I'm not going to leave now. I said, I'm going to catch this fish and then I'm going to leave. And then she's like, well, I want you out of here. And then she started going on and calling me a bunch of really, really vulgar, awful things. And I said, at this point, I said, I'm not going to, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to argue with you. I turned my phone around. I put the camera on. I said, I'm going to record you. So if you want to continue your rant, I said, I'll just post it on social media and then you can look at yourself later. And that's where I left it. And I kept fishing for my fish. So as soon as I put the camera on her, she went back into that shanty.
Okay.
And
that shanty on the photo, she came out of that?
Yeah. So then I'm back on this dock fishing, right? So it's like another 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I'm like, this lady's got me all fired up. And like, I didn't catch this fish. And now I'm like 40 minutes, 50 minutes invested into this fish. I'm like, this isn't happening. So it's like 20, again, I thought she was done. 20 minutes later, I'm fishing for this fish. And all of a sudden I hear ruckus behind me on the shoreline. Dude, she went in and put a wetsuit on. She went in and put a wetsuit on, launched the kayak in the photo, and started ramming my kayak while I was fishing for this fish with her kayak. But right here's where it gets good. So as she's in her wetsuit, dragging out, puts the kayak behind me, bro, she puts the kayak in behind me, the fish bites. So now she's ramming me with her kayak, and I got a 20-inch smallmouth hooked that decides to do its thing and go underneath the dock post, and it's wrapped around the post, flopping up against the dock post like this, about to come off. I'm on like 10-pound test. I'm losing my mind. I'm like, come on. And this lady's banging me with her kayak and trying to like get me out of her way, cursing and doing her stuff. And it goes on for like 5 minutes. This fish goes in somehow, by the grace of God, man, this fish untravels every 5 dock posts and comes right back out right at me. And I just got it right in the net. Cheered, super happy, got all pumped up. Lady was demoralized. And she started to go on and curse me out something fierce. I held the fish up. I'm like, thank you so much. I said, that's all I wanted. I said, I got my fish. And she told me how my generation's awful. And we're really, really entitled people, which I didn't understand if she didn't ever look in a mirror before. But I mean, I don't know how entitlement means telling somebody to get off of a public body of water in front of your house because it's hindering your view. But to me, that would be more entitled. But whatever, it is what it is. I caught the fish and I was super pumped. I laughed, and it was honestly a great thing because I thought, like, I mean, what better way to end like a conflict other than to actually catch the fish, right? If I had it on GoPro, it would have been a wonderful, wonderful thing. But I unfortunately wasn't running a GoPro.
Damn, I was gonna say this is viral.
Now we got that was our 4th fish. So I need one more fish. I go up to like a couple docks up, hook a 17. Got it like 17 and a half. So I was going to have a decent limit at least. I'm like, oh, all right. And then I get it to the boat and it's hooked in the side of the face. I'm like, damn it. So like I didn't keep it because obviously you got to get in the mouth when they're on beds. So I let the fish go. And then I ended up fishing up and down the shoreline. I got up to like another 5 miles back, right? Because I said that fish was 5 miles away. So now I just made like literally 10-mile run between going to that fish and going back. And then I finally get up to some more fish again. And there's this one that I see that's on the rock again, same old game, like a 50-minute game. So I decide I had to be strategic to trick the fish into not like trying to like leave its bed. So I got to the side of the shoreline where like just basically letting the water beat me against the bank. So I like body and kayak blended in with like the background surrounding and the cliffs, and the fish wasn't as like scared because it didn't see me. And I'm like getting rocked. My kayak's about to flip. So I'm like, I need to step out and like try and reposition the kayak. So I went to step out of my kayak and it was like clear water, right? Way deeper than you think it is. Stepped out, totally missed the rock and just ate shit and went swimming down the lake. So then I'm in the lake on this fish, man. I was like, come on. I cut my leg all to hell. I got back in the kayak, gave that fish like another hour, nothing. And I'm like, man, I don't know what to do now because I have a good bag going, but I just need one more fish. I mean, I got 19.75, 220s, and a 19 and a half, I think, or 19.25. And so I'm like, I just need one more good fish. I mean, I have a day. So I'm fishing. There's all these beds that are pulling up at this point in the shoreline. So I'm seeing all these beds up and down the shoreline. During that flip, I lost my paddle too, so that was gone. And then I get down to the this other spot, and I just see all these beds, and I'm thinking to myself, like, what do I just need to catch a fish here? But like, it's not like you just catch one, right? You got to spend like an hour on it. I'm like, I only got like 2 hours. I got no choice here. Do I fish for these fish and try to see if it's going to be big enough to help me? Or do I go to another 20 that's another 4 miles down that I had marked from like pre-fishing and hopefully that it's still there, which it wasn't the previous day or whatever, you know? And I'm like, whatever. I said, I'm just going to send it. So I sent it down there and wasted another hour and basically had 40 minutes of fishing left. And that fish was there too. And I ended up fishing for it. It was super aggressive. It seemed like this one had a lot of bait around it. It was shallower and there was a lot of like needlefish and like other fish swimming around it. So it was super angry, and it would just like it was really doing it was work getting overworked by the bait fish and the other stuff in the area. And that seemed to be the trick too. If they were like left isolated where they didn't have a lot of nuisance pests around them, they weren't like so aggressive. But when they had a lot of stuff going on around them, they were obviously a lot easier to catch. But so I ended up catching that fish. After I got it, I missed it 4 times. It wasn't easy. It was real aggressive, but I just kept missing the fish. I got it hooked, and I was getting it in, trying to get it into the boat, and I stepped forward and stepped right on a Shimano X-Inch reel that I had, like a $600 reel. It completely broke it, bent the handle, bent the reel.
Good Lord, son.
And then I ended up netting a fish. I got it in, and then at that point, I mean, I had my smallest fish was 19 and a half or something. And I'm like, what else am I going to do? It's like, I don't have any large smallmouth. So I had like 25 minutes left. I just started seeing some largemouth under docks and skipping a sink and hoping I could just randomly catch a random giant largemouth, which there isn't a lot of them down there, but there's some, and it just didn't happen for me. So that was kind of
well, hell, you still had the biggest limit of the tournament after all of that, after all those shenanigans. So, I mean, you made that huge comeback from in 20th place range all the way up to 3rd. Jordan, before we get into your day 2 and what happened there, did anyone try to kill you, harass you, steal your catalytic converter or anything like that on day 2?
No, I actually kind of planned around not fishing around docks and people for that very reason.
I thought you were about to say you planned on having that lady come out and harass him. That'd have been
no. Oh yeah. I definitely told her to harass every kayaker there. No, no. I didn't want to deal with people. I had some stuff around some docks that I did fish on day 1, but most of my stuff was away from the drama of homeowners. That seems like smallmouth beds and homeowners. Like, I've had people in Wisconsin come out on the lake and like pretty much do what they did to Ryan, like heckle me, come around me, and it's like, man, like I'm just out here fishing. Like, I'm not killing your lake because I'm catching a smallmouth on a bed. Like, you're killing just as much with all the walleye and perch that you're eating. It's like people really get defensive about some of that stuff. And you add in some people just don't want you in their area, like Ryan said. And it's like, I didn't want to deal with that at all.
Yeah, I don't blame you one bit, man. So you had a huge day 2, very consistent day 1 to day 2. Tell us about that. You already kind of mentioned the fish were really coming to you on Sunday. So just take us through your day 2.
Yeah. So day 2, day 1, I had to really deal with people. My area was super crowded. I know I went like 3 miles and I was able to fish 1 mark on those 3 miles out of 20, out of 15 to 20 marks, because every time I went past one, there was a person on it. And for the most part, every time I would come back, there was either another person or the same person. So I'm like, y'all are sitting on these fish for an hour and a half. Like, it's not going to go. They're not, sometimes they'll go. But like for me, I spent some time on fish, but I pretty much got most of them, you know, to go in 20 to a half an hour max. And I probably didn't do it like a lot of people. I don't get way back. I don't throw natural colors. I sit on top of them fish. They come back. I get them to eat. You know, I get them aggressive on the baits that I put in front of them, and they usually will eat. I fish these fish a lot like largemouth. It's bumping tails and bumping tails and bumping tails and spinning them in circles until they just finally react and get mad and eat.
Yeah.
You know, that was most of my bites. I caught a lot of fish on, you know, like a dark sleeper, stuff like that. Those bigger profiles, that goby profile, they really were getting more aggressive towards that little bigger stuff. I caught a lot of stuff on really, really tiny stuff too, but it seemed like if a fish got tough, if I flipped a big bait into it and really riled it up, then I could get them to eat right away. So that was kind of how I had to really do day one, was just really, you know, largemouth fish for the smallmouth. Day two, and on day one, I think I left my spot at 11. And then like Ryan, I made a 5-mile run. It took I made an hour trip to the other side of the lake, made a 5-mile run in my kayak. I got there and my first battery died, and I right when I left. So I'm like, I got, you know, an 8+ mile round trip that could be right on the verge of blowing out my battery. So like the whole way down there, I'm running, I cross the lake, I go to this other spot, and I have, like Ryan, same thing. I had one mark, one waypoint, 5 miles down. So I'm like, I'm just gonna, at that point, I think I had 95 or 96 inches. I'm like, I just need one call. Like, I don't want to go do the largemouth stuff. So I made the run. The whole trip, I'm thinking about how the conversation with AJ is going to go when I go, hey, bud, I don't have any more power in my boat. I don't have a drive, and I have a canoe paddle. Like, what do I do? You know, and I'm thinking I'm running out like 2 miles from the ramp, like just worst case. So I'm thinking that the whole way down. I had this one perch spot on the way down there that I just about stopped and just caught perch, because for as good as the largemouth and smallmouth fishing is in Cayuga, it is, I would say, one of the best perch fisheries in the world. Like, we're catching 13 to 15 inch perch a lot. It's insane. So I'm like, I should just stop and get dinner. But I kept going, and I get all the way down there, and same thing as Ryan, day one, no fish on the bed. So I'm like, oh no, what am I going to do? You know, I got no time to get back. I got no fish here. I went two docks down, and I caught a 20 on the first bed I saw, and then I was like, that was the only time I had left. But so that was my day one. Day two was way different. I don't think I had my first fish until like 10 o'clock on day one, or on day two, and then it was really just waiting the wind out, because I did have some beds in the like 5 to 8 foot range, and you couldn't really flogger them because you couldn't see them. They were dark beds. So I had to really just wait. I left like half of my fish on day one. I didn't even go look at them. So I knew that I had some stuff there, and nobody fished that area on day one. Well, sure enough, I show up on day two, and like as I'm leaving the ramp, some people that weren't there on day one were there, and they all went down to where my fish were on day two. So I'm like, I had to go kind of hit the retreads up north and, you know, hit the fish that people were on all day. And those fish definitely didn't want to bite. So I ended up going back down south, caught some fish, went back up north, caught some fish. And then it really wasn't, you know, too eventful. I put a bunch of miles in. Like I said, day two, I was able to more traditional bedfish stuff, you know, just brighter colors, put a drop shot in front of them and let it sit, they'll eat it. You know, not as much like bump and run stuff, but it ended up, you know, kind of coming together. I think I culled a 19 and a half and a 19 and a quarter in the or 19 in the last, hour or 45 minutes. So I was able to just wait those fish out, and my pressure up north wasn't as bad as what it was the day before. And a lot of my empty beds were, like Ryan said, they pulled up and they had fish on them on day 2.
Both of you talking about making these big runs. Fishing in general is, it's a mental game as much as anything anyway. We're not in bass boats, even though we're all motorized nowadays, just about. What kind of mental strength? I mean, during these hour runs, you can have some real conversations with yourself. Like, I just screwed this whole deal up. So what kind of mental strength do you have to make a commitment to do that, to go to one waypoint, to get that one fish?
For me, it's just straight up knowing that, that I can rely on smallmouth and the spawn. Like I said earlier, most of the time they're the, gone here today, gone tomorrow, they'll burn you. But during the spawn, they'll stick around, and they'll usually sit on those beds for a good amount of time, especially if they've got fry on them. So I knew that if I made that run, that there was going to be a fish there. Now, I got down there and there wasn't, but 9 times out of 10, that fish would have been sitting there, and I didn't catch that fish in practice. So I figured that even more that it was going to be up there. Not that catching them in practice for smallmouth hurts it, but I just knew that, that fish was there. It was semi-locked on a bed. It was in that 19 to 20 inch range. So I knew that. I knew the whole way down there, I hadn't saw beds in practice. So I didn't want to waste my time trying to look. I just needed to get away from the bank and go as straight and as far as I could. And, really just more experience than hope. It's like your experience tells you that those fish are going to be around. They're smallmouth. They're on beds. They're going to stay. They're not a largemouth that's going to come up for 2-3 days max and then, be gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Ryan, what about you, man? I know we've talked about you in the autopilot. You have supreme confidence in rough water.
I mean, that's
that thing.
But dude, I didn't really talk about that, but I had keep in mind I was using this Dick seat, right? That was in an autopilot, so not even the stock seat, and I had an autopilot. 90% of the day, I was standing on my seat, like for visibility, until I saw the fish. And then, kind of like Jordan said, for me it was a little different. Like most of the catches I had was when I was sitting right on top of them. But the uberly ones that were real skittish, like you could sit on top of them and they would just stay off the bed and they wouldn't get on the bed. So it was kind of like a game of playing with them. Like I was off, then on, then off, then on, then off, then on, then around, then behind. Then it was just like tricking them and getting them until they had no other options, I mean, but it's, for me, the being able to autopilot, like we talked, is incredible for being able to stand up and move with any kind of front mount motor where you're able to move through. It's just real easy to see what you're doing and standing up. I mean, if you have a rear mount motor, I mean, I know some guys do with Torqeedos. I don't know how they use a rear mount motor, not Torqeedo dab anyway, but anybody that has a rear mount motor that isn't able to just stand up and use a remote to look around sight fishing. And some people are successful doing it, right? But to me, I don't know how, because I count on it so much, and it's I like using it to it's me. But I stood on my chair all day, and as far as making the runs, it's kind of I guess it's a statistic game I play in my head all the time, right? So as Jordan said, we know the fish are on beds. We know they're probably going to stay there. They're going to be there. So, and then my mind is just process of elimination the whole thing. I'm I can catch this fish. I could waste time on these 6 beds. If those 6 beds aren't productive, or if I do catch fish on 6 of them, statistically, this fish are all between 18 to 19 inches with maybe 5% being 20, or I can run 2 miles to a fish that I know is 20. And hopefully that fish is there. And then the odds of me catching a fish and spending less time to catch a bigger upgrade is going to be there. So it's just my whole brain, the entire time, is just process of elimination of what statistically I think is going to be my better option. Just kind of high percentage areas that you hear people talk about, kind of same thing, just what's going to be the most productive option and what's going to give me the best shot of getting an upgrade and what's going to just be the most effective use of my time. And obviously with this kind of tournament, it's a little bit easier with bed fishing, right, than a normal tournament where you're just kind of running to a point blind, hoping that our fish are going to be there.
Right.
But that's kind of the thought process there. As far as I see, somebody in the comments said, what baits were y'all using? And I mean, I don't think it was really, I mean, I don't know, Jordan, you can say maybe if you think I'm wrong, but I don't really think the bait mattered as much as just getting the fish in the right mood. I mean, I caught them on a variety of different baits. I mean, I would say my two biggest ones, I caught a lot on drop shot, and I caught a lot on, like a shaky head. But the thing for me was I also had like, one of those they're mega bass, like the bluegill bait, whatever it is, with like the single hook. It's awful for like trying to hook them. They just beat it up. But a lot of times, again, it was just making them mad. So I'd be like throwing like the drop shot at them 75 times, and then they wouldn't eat it. Then I'd throw the shaky head, and they'd go, "What's that?" And it would just like catch them off guard because it was a different look, and then they would just react. So it was more so, I guess, if my tip would be for anybody trying to figure that out would be just try to make the fish respond and react to something, and it's kind of just annoying it till it bites, I guess, really is what I would say.
Yeah, cycling through.
It's more about being able to read the fish than it is about just a certain bait, because for the most part, a smallmouth, on a bed, if it's unpressured, it'll eat a freaking shoe if you throw it in at it. But if they're pressured, they won't. They will not eat. They'll lock their jaws, and then it's more cycling through baits, reading the fish, and then it's, maybe I need a different cut. I don't know about Ryan, but I know when I go bed fish for smallmouth, I have a pile of baits. I have maybe, 4 different drop shot baits, 3 colors of each. I have multiple Ned baits. I have multiple different types of, dark sleeper style baits. I do that so that I can cycle through. It's very easy to, pick something up, put a different shape on, put a different color on, and then it's, once it hits the bait or hits the bed, then it's all about reading those fish. It's really not a one bait is the killer bait. I think the first day, between me and a lot of people I talked to, we had caught every fish on a different bait. I caught every fish on a different bait on day one. I think 3, maybe 2 fish on the same bait on day 2. It was all about reading fish, and some you put, a chartreuse bait on their bed, and they go back, they go crazy for it. They just start freaking out, and then it goes right in their mouth. Some you put a natural bait on it, and they just swim up and just barely touch it and swim off. The biggest thing for me is you need to have something that you're confident in, and you need to be like, your eyes need to work more than anything, because you're looking for line movement and fish movement. You will not feel a bite on a bed, like very, 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 very rarely. Those fish will just pick it up, and they're more times than not, they're picking it up and moving it off of the bait or off of the bed. They don't even want to eat it. They're just, it's gone. They want it away from them. They are not hungry, especially these ones. These ones are eating gobies by the hundreds. They don't need a little perch bait in their face. They don't need to eat that. They just want it away from them.
Great stuff. You guys are giving up some great tips for bed fishing in general, but especially for the smallmouth. I don't want to keep you guys much longer, going over a little bit over an hour. I know you're both wore out from the weekend. I just want to say congrats once again to both of you. Well done. You're 2 of the best in the country, no doubt. And you kind of stamped that again at this tournament. So well done to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll let you guys get out of here. Anybody you want to shout out, any sponsors you want to shout out, or anything you want to say before we let you drop?
Yeah, I'll just give a shout out, obviously, to Old Town. They're huge with the autopilot. About that, Rand. I love them. The kayaks are great. They're incredible for big water, and that's what we have up north. So Old Towns are great. And then Dakota Lithium. Again, I'm running a 280 amp hour in a kayak. How ridiculous is that? But it allows me to run my trolling motor on 10 all day long, and that's how I like to fish most of the time, whether it be chasing bait on live scope or just bed fishing or sight fishing or doing whatever, and just running from spot to spot to spot. It's just big batteries and trolling motors. They kind of go hand in hand with these northern waters. I mean, when you're talking what's Cayuga, it's north end to south end, I think like something ridiculous of how many miles it is. But I mean, when you're fishing lakes these size, like especially out of a kayak, having a big battery is really, really, really just a necessity. And for people that don't know Cayuga, it's pretty much 500 feet deep, 450, 500 feet deep across the whole center. I mean, so it's just, you only have like 20, 30 feet of shoreline, like the entire of the southern part of the lake. And other than that, it's all like ridiculous deep water.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to run.
Yeah. How about you, Jordan?
Just Eco Fishing Shop for me.
Yeah,
They they're really helping me out this year. Go fish like you guys were talking about earlier. If you're in the area or you want a derby to fish this fall, that Big Bass 250 is one of the best. I would say it is the best derby in kayak fishing that is not a championship event.
Right.
The amount of work and stuff that they put into it, the giveaways. I mean, I think they gave away Jeff, like 20 plus kayaks last year.
It was insane.
Like 7 or 8 motors, at more 100 amp batteries than I've ever seen. Like that tournament is the place to be in the fall. It took big bags and, like you were saying earlier, big baits. I got 3rd place there last year on a rat, a big rat bait. So it's like anything plays. It's fun.
Yeah.
Never caught a fish on a big swim bait or wake bait like that. I'm so jealous of these guys that catch these fish on big swim baits and wake baits. Like it never happened for me. I'm always throwing baits this big.
Are you fishing a Bassmaster Caddo, Ryan? Are you gonna fish Bassmaster?
At Caddo, I'm thinking. I don't know. I mean, it depends. I guess it was crazy for me, right? So I only had 2 events all year that I was able to fish because I had the baby. And I went to Murray. Obviously, we talked. I had a 2nd place finish at Murray at the Bassmaster event. And then this was the only 2nd event I was going to – I only plan on fishing 3 this. Hobie that we just finished. And then Susky is right next to me down here. It's like an hour and a half from my house. So I was thinking about fishing the Susky, which if I finish well in that one, being at a 2nd place at Murray, then I may run down to Caddo just because then at least I have a crack at like maybe an AOI if I have a good finish at the Susky. But
I was going to say, if you make the run, just take the week off and then come straight north the next week and fish Lake of the Ozarks for the Big Bass 250 because it's the next week.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Just make it
nice.
one giant.
So I may, but it was cool. I mean, I qualified. This is the first year I had the biggest qualifications, right? So I mean, I got the TOC and I also got qualified for the Classic out of the 2 tournaments I chose to fish this year. So it was just unbelievable.
Easy money. See, I mean, it's a trade-off. You cashing with only fishing a few events, but also getting harassed like crazy in the events. So there you go. Yeah. Well, hey, well done. Once again, thank you guys for the time. We'll let you guys drop out of here. We'll do this giveaway and wrap this thing up. But I just want to thank you both again for your time, man. You guys are awesome.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. There you go, everybody. Ryan and Jordan, 2 of the best in the country. We appreciate them taking the time. Our other Jordan Marshall, was struggling all night with his camera. Ryan Lambert's out, so you had to deal with me most of the night. So I'm sorry for that. But I think we held it down okay. Let's get this giveaway done, and we'll wrap this thing up. Red Label, hashtag Red Label, hashtag Red Label. There we go. How's everybody feeling about Cayuga? I think we need to make the trip. I think I need to make the trip someday. I don't know. I'd have to fly up there. I'm not driving that far. That's a long drive from these parts. We'll give you just a few seconds to slide in here, and we'll get this giveaway done. Let me know in the comments what events you guys are fishing coming up the next couple of weekends. I know we've got the Gunnersville No Limit tournament coming up. I know local tournaments are kicking off and in full force everywhere across the country. Let me know what's going on in your area in the comments. I see the Red Label hashtags flying in there. Everybody's spelling it right tonight. Appreciate y'all. All right, let's hit this thing. Here we go. Who's going to get slow rolled tonight? Boom, 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 boom. Brandon Yoder. Brandon on Facebook. There we go. I thought it was going to be YouTube for a second. Brandon Yoder on Facebook. Reach out to Ryan or I on Facebook or send an email to kayakbassnation@gmail.com and we will get you hooked up with that Seaguar pack. Appreciate everybody. We'll see y'all next week. I don't know what we'll have next week, but we'll be back. Hopefully Ryan and I'll be back together. Hopefully he wins his cornhole tournament and can tell us about it. But as always, appreciate y'all.